Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about E3 2016. I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, oh my god, it's only mid-February and E3 is happening in June and we're already starting to speculate and all that. But it's not all speculation. We got, especially in the last 2 weeks, quite a few pieces of interesting news. So I thought I'll do a bit of a roundup video in which I just break down everything we know so far about this year's E3. Now, just yesterday, we got the big news that the PC gaming show will return after the crazy success that the first PC gaming show at E3 was, and you probably can hear a bit of irony in my voice there. They are doing it again. It will again be produced by PC Gamer. I don't know if AMD again will be the big sponsor. I have no idea about that, but it will happen on Monday, June 13th at 12 p.m. Standard Pacific Time, which is equivalent to 8 p.m. UK time. Now, if I remember last year's PC gaming show, I was majorly excited. Obviously, I'm a PC gamer, and I was like, yes, finally we're getting what we deserve. It's going to be a glorious big show. And then what it turned out to be was basically just like a short arrangement of slightly awkward interviews that didn't reveal much. There were nearly no real news in that show. So all I can say to this, I'm glad it's coming back, and I'm glad they're taking it to the next round, but I think it's super important that they learn from the mistakes they made last year. Hopefully it is a bit better thought through in terms of awkward moments. There were just so many awkward moments, and if you go to Polygon, you can see a little compilation of the most awkward moments that happened during that conference. Or you know what, I'll link that article down in the description. You can watch that video. It is worth watching because it was just like painstakingly awkward to watch. So I hope they focus the format a little bit more. I don't know if you watched it last year, but it was pretty much just people coming in, sitting down on the couch. I kind of liked that open format, but the show was like, 2.5, 3 hours or something? It was way too long, and it was probably boring after an hour, and I kind of had to force myself to watch it, so that's not good. So make it more focused, make it less awkward, and then please bring in a new host. The guy they had last year, I believe his name was Sean Plott. He was trying very hard to be funny and all that and do a good job, and probably he did a good job. I don't want to finger point at him or anything, but it was just, he contributed a lot to this awkwardness. So maybe try someone else. But generally, I appreciate that the PC gaming show is coming back, so that's good. Also, what's interesting on this story is that they are taking over the slot that normally Electronic Arts uses for their show, and now they are in a day earlier slot, which is at 1 p.m. Standard Pacific Time on a Sunday, June 12th. So that's interesting that they moved forward, and now the PC gaming show happens in the slot where EA was. Generally, that brings me to the next news. EA has announced that they kind of abandoned the typical massive booth they have at E3 shows. So we all know it. Whenever there's a big gaming convention, EA rolls in and they just create these huge, massive convention booths. But this year they want to try something different. They have announced that they want to create a 3-day off-site event that will be open to the public. Now, it's going to happen in Los Angeles, obviously, and it's going to happen in London simultaneously. It will be called EA Play, and it will happen just before E3. I think they are going to open it 1 or 2 days before E3. Now, what's really interesting on this is that you don't have to pay to get in. At least that's what I heard. You need to register for tickets online or something, but I'm sure there will be a way to just pop by and get in and get hands-on with a few of the recent EA titles. So what they're doing is they're basically moving their games and the experience of trying out their games closer to the wider public. Right? Because previously you had to be a bit of a nerd, and then you spent whatever $50-$60 on getting into E3, and it's packed and crowded, and it's kind of a gaming elite there anyway. So you're targeting your games only to these people who kind of already know which games are coming out and all that. And by just bringing it out of E3 and creating a separate event that is open to the public, you're really addressing more people, if that makes sense. You're trying to bring in more people into your experience. Maybe even people who have nothing to do with gaming, and they're just curious what's going on, and they're going to pop by, drop in, get their hands on Battlefield, and maybe they like it, So it's a quite interesting strategy, but like I said, the press is going to hate it because they now need to leave the halls of E3, go to a different location, try out the EA games, and travel back and forth. So it's not a good concept for the press, I guess. But the other aspect of this is that hopefully, obviously, the space at E3 is expensive, and you can't go as big as you want. Hopefully, EA makes their booth booth just 3 times as big, go into a place that is maybe not as expensive. I think they already announced where they're going to have this, but to be honest, I don't have it now in my list. But they can go bigger potentially, and that shortens the queues. More people can get hands-on. It's a less frustrating experience. It ticks all these boxes. So I think it's a quite interesting strategy. I mean, I still hate EA, but nonetheless, I like that they kind of try to innovate this format a little bit more. Next point on my list on news that we have for this year's E3, and I already made a video about it, is that Bethesda will have their own show. They're probably going to talk about Dishonored 2, Doom DLCs, Fallout DLCs, and maybe a new Elder Scrolls. I still doubt it. I made a video about this. You can click that down in the description if you want, a whole separate video. So if you're interested in all the news around that, then click the link down in the description. Now, let's talk a little bit about Nintendo. In previous years, Nintendo has kind of held back on live shows. They always keep doing their digital shows. Obviously, they can control the environment so much better. All the news that they have to talk about are communicated through these digital events. But what happens if Nintendo wants to reveal a new console, which is the Nintendo NX? And we're talking about it all the time. And I have a feeling that we will see it at this year's E3. There are so many people who already had hands-on with it behind the scenes. Obviously, we don't get any details. People sign NDAs. But nonetheless, I have a feeling we will see this console being announced at this year's E3. Now, is it enough to do a digital show, like a little stream or something, to announce a new console? I personally don't think so. I think they want to have that moment on a stage where they pull the curtain back and look, here it is, the new console, and that's what it does. It just works so much better. It has a higher impact. So I'm predicting, and I don't know this, but I'm predicting that Nintendo will come back this year and have their own show, do their own presentation, and then unveil the Nintendo NX. Now, what that will be, I have no idea. There are so many rumors floating around. Actually, I also made a video about the NX a while ago where I kind of summarized all the news that we have. I'll put that down in the description as well. And then there are all these game speculations, that people have. Obviously, already now in February, actually, already in December, people were speculating about what we will see in terms of games at E3. This is completely just speculation, but this is just stuff that I found. One of those is a Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I don't know the details about this. There are loads of rumors floating around. I've seen loads of articles. I didn't read all of them, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. I still think they should bring an HD version of the first part to the PC. Rockstar, yeah, please, can we have Red Dead Redemption 1 on the PC? I mean, it's like talking to a wall, really, because so many people have cried so many nights over this game not coming to the PC. So I have my doubts it will happen. But if we're getting a Red Dead Redemption 2, maybe they'll bring that to the PC. Having seen the success that GTA had on the PC, right? They sold like crazy, and it still is selling. With all these Steam sales, I think they're just selling out like warm bread. So Red Dead Redemption 2, who knows if it's coming. Resident Evil 7, maybe we get a release date for that game. I read some rumors about Battlefield 5 getting a release date. Left 4 Dead 3 was in the mix, maybe a new Crash Bandicoot. And then there are these really persistent rumors of a new Watch Dogs game coming, Watch Dogs 2, basically. Now, I know a lot of people hated Watch Dogs. I didn't really play it, so I can't say much about it. But I think Watch Dogs might be one of those where they learn from the mistakes of the first game. And the prime example here is always Assassin's Creed. If you remember, Assassin's Creed 1 was not a bad game. It introduced like a lot of new game mechanics, but it didn't feel like a finished game, if you know what I mean. It was still lacking a few elements. That reminds me of Watch Dogs 1. It had good starting points from what I've heard and what I read, but they didn't pull it all the way to the end. And then Assassin's Creed 2 came out, and that just nailed it, right? It took everything that part 1 did well and added like so many new things to it, and that was a proper good game. Until this day, I still think Assassin's Creed 2 is the best game in the series. So we might see a new Watch Dogs that actually cleans up with all the mistakes that they made in the first game. But I'm 100% sure if they're going to show us a new Watch Dogs game or a demo on stage, it will look absolutely amazing. And then when the actual game comes out, it will only look half as good, because that's how Ubisoft does it nowadays. Anyway, guys, like I said, all these games, these titles, I'm just throwing them around. This is just speculation, stuff that I read about. Obviously, I hope to see some of those. Which would be your favorite games? What do you want to see at this year's E3? What would get you really excited? Leave all that down in the comment section below. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave me a like, share the video, subscribe to the channel, do all the good stuff. Otherwise, guys, take care, and I'll see you next time. I'm out. Bye.